Years ago in Bolivia, one of the things that helped, one of the sort of prime examples of this is in like the late aughts, there was water privatization in Cochabamba in Bolivia, and it was so ruthless that people were not allowed to collect water, rainwater from their own roofs. Was one of the stories that came out at the time. Brazil is in the middle of an extraordinary crisis, a multitude of crises. It's devastated by Corona. And of course, Jair Bolsonaro has accelerated it. He's embraced every type of conspiracy theory. He's pushed reopening. He's been even unclear about his own status. And like everywhere else, it's hitting the poor, it's hitting the periphery. President Lula, former president, actually said that Bolsonaro was being genocidal a couple of weeks ago. And that's true, particularly when you factor in indigenous people. On top of all of this, the real reason behind the political warfare against the Workers' Party, behind the political imprisonment of Lula, the installing of Bolsonaro, which was backed by the Wall Street Journal and backed by Wall Street, that austerity agenda that kicked in as soon as President Dilma was removed in office by an illegitimate impeachment process, that continues. And Brazil has just passed a bill that will lead the way to privatizing its water utilities. I'm going to quote from AFP briefly. The Brazilian Senate passed a bill Wednesday paving the way for privatize state-owned water and sanitation companies and attract more private investment. And I'll quote now. I should have given this before. I have a quote, if I can pull up, from Brian Mayer, basically saying that like this has been something that they have been trying to do for a while. It was resisted by the Workers' Party, obviously. There's a lot of interest in this from companies like Coke and their water subsidiary Nestle. I'll quote now from Brian Mayer. The Brazilian Senate passes a bill authorizing privatization of water, which the Lula administration blocked in the landmark Basic Sanitation Law, which in 2007, which expanded clean drinking water. Brazil has the world's largest freshwater supply, and multinationals like Coca-Cola have their eye on it. So very bad, folks. And again, it's also this is like the most raw and vicious type of corporate theft of the commons, and it's ongoing. And Brazil is a major target, and Coca-Cola has their eye on it. And everywhere that this has happened, this has seriously damaged public health. And also, I mean, could you imagine anything more dangerous globally as a principle? The idea that water isn't a common opens resource, but a privatized commodity.
It's death.
It's death. It's death. I mean, there's a guy, Achille Mbembe, who wrote an essay a couple years ago called The Age of Humanism is Ending. He wrote it in 2016. He's a Cameroonian philosopher. And, well, I'll just leave it at that. I'll suggest people read that essay. It's publicly available. It's absolutely disgusting in and of itself, but it also, it points to, very, very dangerous global trends. And South Africa played around with this, deeply harmful. There's municipalities in the United States that do this. Look up the Cochabamba example. And now in the midst of being devastated by Corona and a years-long, fight to implement austerity and reverse all of the incredible successes of the Workers' Party, like under Lula eliminating hunger, this is where Brazil finds itself today. Did you guys have a different thoughts on water privatization?
Oh well, I drink a lot of Coca-Cola, so I'm okay with it. So.
Yeah, you got it.
It's the thing that scares me more than anything else. I don't like talking about it.
I
Honestly,
feel
it's
you.
incredibly terrifying. Like selling water rights at the heads of rivers is like something that I constantly to get terrified over.
It's absolutely it talk about baseline things. I mean, if we can't figure that out, where the hell are we going?